Hello, I think we're live. There we are. So I'm just checking. We are. So I'm just checking. Okay, I think you'll still be able to hear. Yeah. Oh, no idea. Okay. Let's begin. I have streamed before, but for some reason I've forgotten everything. Anyway, today, this was just for myself. Anyone watching it is of course free to watch it, but abhi ke liye, it's just for me. Okay, it's set to private. That means no one is watching it. But we'll just keep it for ourselves then. Alright. Today we're going to try building something. I've been trying to learn how to, well, I haven't been trying to, I'll begin learning how to build like a mind palace and get good at memory techniques, because apparently my memory is really bad. So I'm just trying to train that somehow, and apparently it also helps with concentration and stuff like that. I'm not interested in all this as much, but I'm very interested in the fact that this whole idea of building a mind palace, and which is helping you remember things, is really fascinating to me. Other than that, I'll just cut the crap and just tell you that I just watched Mentalist and I kind of want to become like Jane. So we're just going to take a step towards that. But I'm also a computer science engineer, or at least I want to become one. So we're working in that direction, and I wanted to build something. Earlier I decided I'll just throw it at anti-gravity and then just let it do its work, and I'll just use it for memorizing. So right now the exercise we're trying to target is being able to remember a series of numbers or a series of cards by associating some sort of a person with each thing, some sort of person or thing with each number or card, and then arrange them in the supposed mind palace, and then remember through that. Also, I added the video thing in here, the video capture device, but apparently it is not working. I don't know why. So let's move on. So what I did was I asked for Gemini to write a prompt for me, which will force anti-gravity to not write the code, but to teach me how to write it. So I'm using it as my trainer. So I've given it the whole thing, and it's a very basic application, and the tech stack I provided was Python, Flask, Jinja 2, HTML and CSS, because this and Bootstrap. So because this is what I have used in one of my projects, and I have a Viva coming up, so I thought I'll just practice through this as well. Okay, so first of all, milestone 1. So it's a minimal server and routing basics. So the core Flask application, instance and initial roots, environment setup, everything. And then we're going to talk about templating, UI, creating all these. So yeah, whenever you're creating a Flask application, some conventions are there. So you create a folder of template and static. So we're just going to do the same thing. We'll create templates, and we'll create static. So these are the two folders we've created, and Jinja 2 template inheritance with base, from which we're going to inherit everything. The page.html. I have a very bad control at the mouse that I'm working with right now. I can't do shit, man. Okay. Wow, turns out it's not in there. This is the most dumb moment I have captured. But anyway, so then we'll integrate Bootstrap 5 via CDN. Don't know what the fuck that is. Card memorization mode. So yeah, so this is the important part. So this targets the deck generation logic, where we'll have 52 playing cards, rank and suits, and then we should be able to choose how many decks we want, so the deck count selection. And then we should be able to choose how many times we want to go around, and multiple things, buttons to shuffle things up, and then of course to test it. So sessions will be stored in Flask.session for holding deck state across requests, post request for form submission, sequential card display view, recall input forms, scoring algorithms. So there are a bunch of things we'll have to figure out. Then the number memorization mode. So this is for card memorization. Number memorization, we're going to do a string generation logic. Timer operations, so it's client-side JavaScript or CSS-based timed view. Recall submission and accuracy calculation. So yeah, of course, that percentage underscore calculation. User interface, polish and sessions control. So here what we'll do, we'll just custom and stuff. Okay, so let's begin. Start with first setting up your Flask server. So I'm not that much of a beginner, but yeah, we're gonna act like one. So the step one is to set up your virtual environment. So a virtual environment is something that keeps your packages for this particular project isolated from your system. So you can install these packages globally again, but then that global package can only have one certain version associated with it. So let's say some other app of yours, some other project of yours is using some different version than what you decided to install globally. That's going to crash that particular project or create some changes there which we wouldn't want. So for that reasons, we create virtual environments which keep you an isolated environment that keeps the project dependencies separated from the system-wide Python package. It's very simple. So here the central object is a Flask project. That is very simple to understand. So we'll create a Flask application, and if you do not know what Flask is, so Flask is basically a web framework that we use to build applications, web applications using Python. So it handles incoming HTTP requests and dispatches them to the appropriate Python function. So in order to pull all this off, we'll require roots and decorators. That's what Flask or mostly any web framework works around. So if you're writing any other API, let's say using Fast API or anything else, so that's what you'll be using basically. Okay, so in Flask, app root path is a decorator attached to a Python function called a view function. So any decorator is something that is associated with a function, and it starts with at in the beginning. So it's nothing but another function that has the parameters as the function associated with it. So whatever function is associated with that decorator will run before that function, and kind of having that function as its parameter it being a function itself. So when a user visits that URL path in a browser, Flask executes the decorated function, sends its return value back to the browser as an HTTP response. So this is basic routing, and it's very important to figure all this out. Okay. Another thing that you do is you often turn the debug mode on, which will let you so in production you don't need to do this, but while we're tracing errors and during the building process, we don't need to false this. We need to have it as true. It just helps us track our errors. So first I set up the terminal. So we've opened our terminal, and right now our workspace directory is this memory training arena. So first of all, we're going to create and activate a Python virtual environment. And how do we do that exactly? So how to create a Python VNV. You can see I just wrote. Okay, in order to do that, you use this. But I'm not so sure if you're using Linux, you'll have to use Python 3 because then that's what been installed here. And what this command means actually, I'll explain. So this is telling you to create a virtual environment, but what you're going to write after this is going to be the name of your virtual environment. So this .vnv is the name of your virtual environment. So anywhere you're going to use the name of your virtual environment, this is what you'll be using. So it's been created here. So this is a virtual environment. It is a set of files. It's automatically created as soon as you run this command, and it's going to store information that is going to tell you, or anyone for that matter, that okay, these are the current versions of packages that are being used. But usually when it comes to open source projects where you're planning to like have contributions or have someone on GitHub being able to run it, what you usually do is have like a requirements.txt. So you have this requirements.txt file, and you don't push the VNV, so you just put it in the git ignore, and whenever someone is running it on their system locally, what they can do is they can just pip install recursively the requirements.txt. So they can use the rflag to recursively install all the packages with the versions you're using into their system. So there's also a command you can use. You can like pip freeze, and whatever the versions of your virtual environment has of your packages, they are frozen, and then you can store them in requirements.txt, and then you can push that to your public repo. So that just makes it easier. But right now we have this virtual environment here, and we want to activate it. So in order to activate it, what actually is activate? So anything you do, any function you perform, it's all in the system. So it's somewhere a script. So here in VNV, you see this folder bin. So we go in here, there's activate, and then there's activate.csh, there's fish, there's ps1. So all of these are activate scripts. So if we go into the script, it has some code, right? So that's going to help you activate your virtual environment. So you're just going to run this. Make sure you're in your folder, like your parent folder, because in some cases when you clone repos or unzip files, you're gonna be like one folder below, so make sure you backtrack to that. And our little script here is activate. So when you do that, you can see that a little change happened here, and a virtual environment has been now created. So let's get to it now. We've done this much, very simple. Now we're going to install Flask using pip install, just going to go Flask, just collecting Flask. Epic hasn't been upgraded, with install upgrade pip. That's also done, and that's also now that has been installed, and in our virtual environment, right? So now we're going to create our main file. So these are just, let's say, bits of it. Anything you put inside the static or inside the templates, or anything you write in base.html, or for that matter, anything else you put in here, that's just the back end. That's just something helping your front end to display something, giving your front end to actually, put something out there. There's going to be one staging area or one place that's going to have everything. So it's like building a jigsaw puzzle. So you're going to have the pieces you've started to build onto your table, and the rest of them can be on the side. So where is this main table area we have here? So that's going to be in app.py. So it's just a simple Python file that is actually going to be our staging area. So this is our main file, we could say. So it has to be in the root of your workspace. It cannot be in any other folder, right? So this is your main file. And now we're going to assemble app.py. That means we're going to start by importing things. So let's start importing. First we'll import the Flask class from the Flask library and instantiate the application. Object name app, passing name to tell Flask where to locate resources, and create a function home that returns a greeting string like welcome to memory palace arena, and decorated with this add an if to check at the bottom of the file to call app.run debug true. Okay, so let's start by doing all this. So first of all, we just need to check if our Flask is working properly and if it will be able to run everything in the end. So first we'll kind of like create an outline, and then we'll start adding things to it, right? So where should we begin? I'll start with actually the last thing written here, which is to run the file. So if we'll keep adding, so it's all up to you, just telling me things to. So this is what you write. So if name is equal to main, app.run is equal to true. So what this means here, now this calls for like another lesson. So this tells your interpreter that whether this particular file needs to be run as a package or as an executable. So both of these are different things, right? So if let's say I'm trying to build a package, then this is not going to be equal to main. So that's making it not an executable but a package which can be imported into other files which will be executables. So you'll have to study about this, and this is something which is worth studying and is important for that matter. Okay, now there's something which we want to import. First of all, we're building it all over Flask, right? So yeah, we want to from Flask import. Okay, we have the class name is Flask, so from Flask we want to import Flask, right? And then instantiate the application object name app passing name to tell Flask where to locate the resources. That just went over my head. Yeah. So this is it, right? This is us creating an app. Right now we'll just do this, nothing else. So we'll just create app. So we just imported a class here, right? We just imported Flask, and this will tell you that okay, app is this object of the type Flask, and this name is just telling us where to locate the resources. And this is telling us that this particular root. Okay, let me just take you to any. Yeah, this sounds good. So any URL. So you can see that there's this website, and if I just take everything off, though this mouse is a nightmare for you. So if I take everything off, you're going to see this in the beginning, right? And if I keep adding stuff to it, so this is the root place. If I say products, was it product? What was it? It was products. So it's just maybe some authentication would have been needed, but it's basically rooting. This is what rooting is. So you define something in the root folder, and then you say ki whenever this is the whatever's in the root decorator, whatever's in the root part of this will actually hold the contents of a landing page, and then you can just move on from there. So this is the decorator, and we want to have like a function called hello. Maybe it says hello, right? It was home, doesn't matter, anything. But what it's just trying to say is whenever you add this root, this is the function you want to run. So I wanted to just return some sort of a greeting, like hi, welcome. So this is welcome to the memory palace, or the memory training arena. Or they're suggesting like an exclamation mark. Cool, cute. So this is what we have for now. Why is it showing this red line? I'm not so sure. I cannot find the module Flask. Anyway, so we have assembled this, and we've imported the Flask class from Flask library. We've instantiated the application object name app, and we've passed name to tell Flask where to locate the resources. We've also created a function home, which is returning a greeting string like welcome to the memory palace arena, and we're decorating it with app root. So execution block add, and we did do that, and everything is all set. So now we'll just run this, right? So what you would have to what you would have to do outside of this virtual environment in order to run this file is you would have to go Python 3 app.py. But right now we're in a virtual environment, and we do know that we are talking about Python 3 while we're running this. So you can just go app.py. Run app.py. Python app.py. Okay, you don't have to write Python 3 then. You just can run it using. Fuck, that's embarrassing. But it's live, so. Yeah, so basically this works. Simple. So it's done, right? You just say done. What else you can keep on adding to this is, I'm a little aware about Jinja and stuff as well. So what Jinja does, I'll explain Jinja to you a little. So if you want to use HTML and CSS and Bootstrap for your web application, but actually there's Python at the back end. So how do you do that? So usually we use Jinja for it. That helps with templating. So you can just make one base file, then an add-on to it using weird syntaxes. So you can use for loops and stuff like that in your HTML file itself. So that's basically how it works. And we also have something called a render template. So that'll just render a whole entire HTML page for us. So let's say we have a different route. Let's say we create another route. Hold on, like another route which actually has like our cards, right? So like it's after it has our cards, and then I can define like a function cards here, and then inside I'll just render the template. So it will just render that entire HTML page for us. So that's how that works. Right now this is working. I'll just say done. Yeah, so it's suggesting that I do that, which is what we'll do later. Okay, it's just very annoying. Okay, now let's move on to this. Step number 2. I noticed in your terminal logs you tried running around executable commands need to do right. Yeah, so if the virtual environment is active, you can just do that. I initially knew this, but I thought it just says app.py. That got me a little confused that maybe this is also a thing. But yeah, I was right initially. So Python 3 you don't have to write. Okay, milestone 2. Flask templating and UI layout. Now, we've tested our Flask. We'll move on to test our Jinja 2 and a Bootstrap 5. So right now your root returns plain text. Web application returns styled HTML pages rather than writing duplicate HTML boilerplate on every single page. So Flask uses Jinja 2, a template engine. So a template engine is what we're going to be using, something that will generate HTML pages for us based on some sort of a template we provided them. So they're going to be dynamic because there's Python working behind it. And template inheritance. So where do we start? We've created these two folders. Yeah, so Flask basically automatically looks for specific files in designated folders like templates and static. Now, what do templates and static folders contain? Templates would store HTML files passed by Jinja 2. So it's going to have all your HTML files. So can I just put maybe base in that too? Maybe later we'll just push base in templates as well, but for right now, let that be there. Yeah, so template inheritance is basically that several other pages will inherit everything from base.html. Like you go to certain pages and I don't know, maybe this like OS dev. So no matter what page you go to, you'll see that sidebar is something that stays there, or like at least some part of it, or this something up here. So this stays there, right? So there are chances that this is actually what was in our base system, and later on, let's say like that was base HTML, and when we built this particular page for like getting started.html, when that was built, they inherited certain elements from the base.html. That could be then styles or literal elements, so anything could be there. So we don't have to repeat what's in base.html for every single file in the templates folder. So templates has all of that. Templates change, they're dynamic. They're just boilerplate, right? So they're just templates for you, templates for Jinja, which will be generated into HTML pages and will be displayed to us based on this routing, right? But static part stores CSS, your image files, your JavaScript, which is going to stay the same. So like the images of the cards, etc. Alright. So let's talk about template inheritance. We just did that. So instead of repeating head, bootstrap imports, and the nav bars in every file, you create a master template which is base.html, and child templates inherit from the base.html and only supply the unique body content for that page. So yeah, so this is block syntax. This is extension syntax. So so whenever you're creating like a base file, you'll use this block content end block, and whenever you're creating like a child template, you're just going to say extends base.html, and then we can just use render template to render the entire HTML page. It's also imported from Flask, so this function loads an HTML file from the templates folder, passes any variables to Jinja2 and sends to process HTML to the browser. So very simple. We're just going to also import that. Render template. I'm just gonna let it do that. Okay. Now let's go to base.html. It has just explained all this to us, is it? Our task begins from here. So create the folder structure, we've done that. Create a new folder named templates, done that. Build, yeah, so this is actually in templates. And it should include the basic the basic HTML boilerplate stuff. So we're gonna go doc type HTML, then there's what else? Did you also write something else? There's head, there's title, and then there's body. Right. So this is going to have like a memory training arena. So let it have that. Let it just display that. So when I run this now, hold on. Yeah, so now actually that HTML page is being rendered. This base.html is being rendered, right? So HTML5 boilerplate code boilerplate should look something like this. Oh, I just forgot the HTML tag. I can't fucking believe it. This looks okay. So we do that. Add the Bootstrap 5 CSS link in the head and the Bootstrap JS script tag before the closing body tag. You can get these from getbootstrap.com. Okay. Also, Jinja base file code. So you need to add the block code and I think the main tag. Yeah, so you do this link thing, and then yeah, this right here for child templates, block extra CSS and block content and block, all of that. And then they're also using this URL for thing. See, it's not necessary for you to use this only. Okay. So we'll have to create this meta viewport thing for proper responsive behavior. We're going to do that. Okay, that is done. So it says we have to link it, and it also says just add the link. So we have to do multiple things. First up, of course, there's a base CSS file you're also going to require, and that's going to go in the static things. So basically link so these are all not closed tags. Yeah, that's probably gonna have that only. This is a file that hasn't been created yet, and this right here is what is also probably gonna be there in our static JS script.js. So should we create these? So let's do that. In here I'll create a folder with my CSS. And in here I'll also create like a file with most of the style.css, big deal. That's gonna be like the basic things, right? Then undo the whole thing. What is it? Okay, let's see. Add a simple navigation bar with the brand name. So we actually do not want to render. So we go to app.py, we actually don't want to render base.html. What we actually want to be rendering is something called index.html, something that is going to inherit all of this from our base, right? So we're going to go to base and we're going to get rid of maybe this right here. So we're going to get rid of this for now. This is not what we want here. What we want here is we want a nav bar. So let's see how to do that. Like a nav bar. Require dot nav bar collapsing and color scheme classes. So just do that. Class nav bar, nav expand. And does it have like a, yeah, it does end. So this is all example of like a simple as nav bar. ठीक है. So then just like explain the whole thing, and this is going to have links here linking you to everything. ठीक है, simple. Okay, so whatever we just built here, index.html, that includes that is going to start with extends, right? So it basically extends base.html. So now it is doing that. So what exactly is this block content being used for? In the child template and the base template. Oh, I get it. You just put like block wala region. Okay, I get it now. So okay. So in here, if I just put like right here, I just say the block content and end block. So it just tells me that there's a block here, and when anything extends it, I'll have to use this again, like this block again, but this time it's not going to be empty, but there's going to be content in it. So I want to add, this is going to be the header section. So this is going to contain two buttons. It's your welcome card because it's in index.html, right? So all the nav bars, all the styles, base.html has all that. We are just filling these blocks in here. So inside the block, create a hero section or welcome card introducing the app with two buttons or cards leading to future routes. So card memorization mode, this is the numbers mode. So yeah, these will lead to cards or numbers. So let's create like maybe like a cards.html, and then we'll create like a numbers.html, right? When that is done, now I want index to have stuff that's actually taking to that. So we'll just create like a button. For some reason this makes more sense. Okay, so these are the two buttons I want to have, and the class mode button on click window location.href window dot location takes me to this. Let me test this out. Hold on. First we'll like complete our base.html. In here, there's this block. It's a nav bar. Add a simple bootstrap nav bar with a brand name Memory Ballet Serena. Can I just add this content here? Memory Dream Arena. Hold on. That's not needed right now. So we've added link in the head and script tag before closing the body. So you will use these to link to the JavaScript and CSS. I've done that. Then we've also added this wrapper from Jinja tool. Build templates index.html, we've done that as well. It's extending. Inside that block we've added this. Yeah, I've also done that. But hold on, let's see now index.html. Let's see how that rendered. We'll do another thing. We make cards and numbers also extend the base class, the base one, right? So I'll just copy all this. We'll be able to see if cards and all actually opened. And it was gonna be this, and then we can just have that block here. So block content and block. In the middle of it I can just say that okay, this is the cards memory game, and in the numbers section I can say I had to write this for once for me to remember this. And the end block. So this will tell me whether the links and all are working as well. Here we are in our memory training arena. There's cards, there's numbers, but these are not working, right? Okay, but this is routing me somewhere. It's not to. It should work. So what could this be like? App.root, like cards. This should work, right? But if in here I could have just linked it directly to those, but it's something different. It's like a different on-click thing that is happening here. So does this href require routing, and how can I just link? There is nothing to render the HTML or the file. Like, I don't understand if I just hold on, we'll have to try this directly without any routing. So it's using an absolute path like numbers that the web server or client root must interpret. Okay. How to link files directly? Do you need to use stuff like this in the path? On click href, and you'll have to do something like this, right? HTML, right. So what does the mod button do exactly? Yeah, that's what I thought. It's just for styling. But okay, so you can style them like individually. Makes sense. This is it, right? But what if I comment this out? How do you comment this out? It's an this was an HTML comment, right? Okay, no. Oh, that's something else they're also suggesting that can be done. Okay. Just using a link over the button. Yeah, that's also something that can be done. Yeah, but okay, that makes sense. For now, let it be that. Otherwise, that anchor thing also works. So right now, the pages are being rendered on their own. Okay. us spat out a few more tasks for us. Fantastic progress. You've successfully wired up multiple templates, established Jinja 2 inheritance, and set up your page routing in app.py. Here are 2 key Flask best practices to refine your current code before we move forward. So, we link static files with URL for. So that's what that was, right? Hold the hell up. Okay. Yeah, this is also something that can be done. Yep. So you can just link these static files. You use relative paths like this. I did. So initially in the app.py file here, how do we not use the suggestion? What's the key for that, man? Stuck. Okay. Yeah, this, right? So this is just like random code right now, but if you are using in base.html here, we've used these idiotic ass things. Instead, we can use this URL for. We'll try using that as well. If a root URL becomes nested later, let's say card results 1, relative paths break because the browser looks for card static. Oh, makes sense. Use Flask URL for helper function inside Jinja double curly braces. So it will calculate that path for you. Good thought. Because later on it will start looking for this, and if you add stuff to it, so it will be very complicated when you render this, right? So we'll use it instead. So we'll just say that this, and then our Jinja URL for, and it's something static, anything works. But what it is your file name is JS script .js. Right, that sounds about right. And for our link section, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to say URL for, oh no, this is going to be in the Jinja, right? URL for, it's going to be static, because it's in a static folder. File name, CSS style .css. Just that. Very simple. Okay. So yeah. This is what I was trying to deal with there. Is that there is a difference between HTML links and JavaScript redirects. So HTML links are something like, okay, button, oh no, this is what this showing that I used, right? Flask's best practice is to use standard HTML anchor tags, style buttons, and then pass the view function name to the URL for. Okay. Because if you ever change the root in app.py from this to this, it will still generate correct URL everywhere. Okay, so it's more about that. HTML links, this was an HTML link, is it? But we weren't using relative paths here. Let's say we used a relative path here, then that would have been the case. But let's alter our index.html. So let's get rid of these. And instead we're going to go like href, and that's going to have our Jinja URL for the cards. So are we just like naming this word? I don't understand. And then class so how exactly is it knowing? How does it know? How does it know that URL for cards, and if I change the name of cards to something else? So it's pretty short, so I'm pretty sure like it's in the Jinja thing, but yeah. So it would still work. You can see all this happening here. Get static, this and that. So 404 because it wasn't able to get it because these files don't really exist. Cards, numbers. Okay, this seems cool enough. So let's talk about milestone 3. The card mode, the setup form, and the Flask sessions. Now let's build the interactive flow for the card memorization game. Okay. So we'll be using the HTTP methods here, get and post. This is basic. You should know this. If you don't, then no worries, you're gonna learn it. I was gonna say something super mean, but I'm going to hold my horses because the heck I don't know shit as well. Okay. So get is used to request data from the server, displaying the game setup form, and post is used for sending data to the server, game settings like deck count. Okay. So so get will be able to request the data from the server. Okay, just render this Panana page for me, and it's going to do that. While post, so if I like click cards, it's going to render that cards page for me. That's get. But post is like see, when I click them, something happened here. Get cards, get numbers, and 200 code. 200 code means it worked properly. And 400 meant it didn't 404, right? So in Flask, roots default to get only. So to accept form submissions especially, we have to use methods like this list with get and post onto the root decorator. To do that. Okay, so post will be more like I've chosen the number of decks in that particular form, and now I want to post that. I want to tell the server this is my whole thing, just that. then we'll make the server request this form data. So import request from Flask. When a user submits an HTML form via post, Flask captures the input values by their name attribute. So the deck count is going to be request.form.get deck count. Okay. Then what's a Flask session? Session and secret key. Web requests are stateless, which means that server forgets who you are as soon as the request finishes. So yeah, that's true. The server doesn't know in what state you are. You don't know in what state the server is. And as soon as you stop browsing, the server forgets who you are as soon as a request finishes. And to keep track of the generated card deck, cross-page reloads, viewing cards, entering answers, seeing scores, we use Flask sessions. So sessions act like a Python dictionary tied to the user's browser cookie. So session deck is equal to something. So Flask encrypts session cookies. You must set a secret key in app.py. Okay. So you can also set this secret key in, let's say, .env file. That's actually a very classic way to go about it. We usually set up these secret keys, which are in a way environment variables, which is going to be used all over your project, like all over this. So we just set them in env and we just import them using .env. You can also do that, but here I'm just creating this for myself. I'm not pushing it anywhere. Maybe even if I will, I don't give two shits if someone accesses this. There's nothing like that. But let's say an API key is there. Something like that needs to be stored in .env, and then you need to add your .env to your git ignore, right? So Flask encrypts session cookies. So we'll add a secret key here. Where is our app? So right below, where, like the creation of our app, I'll add an app dot secret key, which is anything for that matter. Super secret memory key. So this is actually this can be any string, and this is just helping us create a session. Import request redirect. Okay, this is something we will need. URL for, so URL for still worked in it, but still let's start with our imports. We will need redirect. We'll need URL for, right? We'll need session, yes. So all of this is now imported. That much is done. Now we'll start creating the deck setup. So let's go to our cards. This is the interesting bit, and here I want to have a simple form, and it should have a method post. Select. So we're creating a form now. I've already rendered that, but acha. So okay, so our cards root is going to have a certain form in which the action is going to be post. So it's posting something, right? But the default verb that is actionified here is get. So we'll have to add like a method to this. Hey, listen, we also want to post through this. And I think a similar thing will happen with numbers. So that I start creating a little cards memory game. We'll do all this styling, all this CSS later. Okay. So let's start by creating a simple form. And it's going to have a certain action. So action is what is done when you like submit, and it's going to contain URL for cards, and the method is going to be post. Just looks better in capital. Okay. Sometimes these things make me think that AI is kind of stupid, to be honest. That you're talking about this particular thing here, can't you match your... Anyway, I think it's just helping me learn. I'll just take that. So a select or input type number named deck count and timer and submit. So that's simple, that can be done. So we'll do like a input, and the type will be a number. That's not required, is it? Initially we'll have something, I don't know. So this will be the deck count, and I do not think we should have like a minimum maximum thing though. Like we can add like a label. I'll do that. Then we'll add another input. This type is also going to be number, and the name is going to be timer. Seconds per card. Example 0 for manual next. We can add like a we can just have like a break in the label, or if that makes sense. and this is type submit, which will trigger the action. We've updated the cards. We did this. So okay. Inside cards. If request. So this is what we just imported. Did we import that? We should have request. Yeah, so if request dot method is equal to post, that means something, the chosen method is post, then so it talks too much, this. Hold on. Yeah, so if this method is post, we need to read deck count and timer from the request form. For now, print those values to your terminal so you can verify the form submission works. Return a text message or redirect to a new route like cards display. Else, for get request, render cards.html. So if we get like a that's what will go in here. So what values do I want to be printing here? Request form get deck count. So it is adding it to this session, right? But for now I'll just print it. And it is also okay. We'll take this. Okay, yeah, that's a better option too. We can comment it out. So comment it right now. Oh, okay. Now the question we asked, that how is this URL for even getting to know that cards, and if you changed it to that cards is this cards.html, and if we, let's say, change it to some other name, how is it going to change that? So URL for works under the hood, that we know. We imported this function from somewhere. So when Flask runs your app.py file, it builds an internal dictionary called a routing table. That is so sick. That is so cool. I'll actually write that down. That sounds so interesting. So what URL for is doing, so when Flask runs your app.py, URL for is creating like a routing table. By default, Flask uses the Python function. That means we have to run app.py at least once in order for it to calibrate in a way. By default, Flask uses the Python function name as the key or the endpoint name. So yeah, by default, that's the case. By default, the endpoint name is equal to like the function name, and maps it to the URL string. So for example, Flask reads this code, cards return this. Flask creates an internal mapping like home is this, oh we used it here, right? Okay, cards is this and this is this. So what if you change the URL path? Suppose next week you decide to change the URL path from cards to play cards arena. Because the function name is still URL for cards, will now automatically return play cards arena. Oh, okay. Okay. And if we change the Python function name itself, so when you run it, it will register this new name as the name of the endpoint. So if you try to run URL for cards in a template, Flask will throw build error saying could not build the URL for the endpoint. So you should not change the function name, but you can change the URL's name, right? To fix it, you will have to update your template to use the new function name. You can also explicitly set your endpoint name in the decorator, like if you want to decorate it completely, decouple it completely from the function name. Okay, so we can also do the app.root, and instead of like cards, we can instead have like a whole entire endpoint thing happening. Let's do that. I see you updated base.html and index.html with URL for. That code is clean, readable, and follows web development best practices. When you are ready, proceed with milestone part 1. Update, import, request, redirect, everything. Build the setup form. Okay. So now we're going to check if these values are actually getting printed, right? Let's just save this. Save this too. Okay. So when we go to cards, you can see that we just got cards, right? Now let's say number of text is 2. The time is going to be for 60 seconds. We start the game. Cards did not return a valid response, but it is printing the value and it's just not returning anything. So if I would make it return this, but we haven't yet defined play cards, we'll have to like make like play cards HTML as well. Okay, simple. This was easy. So I have to like make another play cards .html. And then should we be like this, but isn't like going like through that? Or I will run it again. So what my doubt here is, will it be like cards, play cards, or can it be like play cards from the root itself? So let's start the game. This is rendered. I've gotten this. Oh, 302 is actually a post request. Okay. And then you get this. 302 is post. 200 is get. 302 is post. And 404 is not found. And you can see these being printed here. Alright. We can officially say done. But yeah, this is because 404, we already figured that out. We are seeing 404 for static CSS in style, somewhere around here, when it's trying to call them, because that hasn't been created yet, so there's no problem there. Nothing's broken. It says indentation error. Python is strict about spacing. If you get an indentation error, ensure very indented block under if else def uses 4 spaces consistently. Yeah, we got that. So now let's generate the deck and store the game state in session. Now that we have the form submission working, we need to generate a shuffle deck of playing cards based on deck count. Save that deck and the current card index into this session, because we need to remember these cards, right? And then we like check the card, we'll memorize the card in the game, and then we'll have to check whether we answered them in the right order. So, and we'll have to display the cards one by one in the playcards.html. Okay, how do we do this? So card generation with random.shuffle. Okay. Standard playing cards card decks have spade, heart, diamonds and clubs, and the ranks are like an ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, a jack, queen and a king. So generating one deck is equal to combining every rank with every suit. That means 52 cards. For n decks, repeat that set n times. So random.shuffle, deck list, randomly orders these cards. So first of all, it's going to take the deck value, then it's going to create that amount of decks. Then shuffle's going to be happening. So we need to define functions for each one of them, and then somehow stick all that into playcards.html. Also, more beautified right now, like with images and stuff. We can simply use numbers or something, like some basic tag would also work. So that once we have like the functioning in place, we can work on the front end later. In fact, I feel like I don't even like to work on front end that much. I really like to understand, I really like to explain it to someone that how I want the front end to function, and what all things are like there. I like to study how front ends psychologically affect the visitors, and or like the sciences behind converting them, but I'm not so sure how much I like actually building the front end. I feel like that's kind of repetitive and boring. So I'll just explain whatever I want to AI. I feel like for all my front end things, I'm going to use AI from now on. So card methods, okay. Now, session persistence across requests. So inside your cards, this was what was happening earlier. What it was doing by default was storing it in session, because we want to hold this value, right? We want to hold the value of number of texts, the current index, and the value of the timer. So the current index will start at 0, so we want to store all these values. And then, because it's a string that we took, so we're going to change it to an integer. Integer timer value, what does that mean? Oh, sorry. Okay, it's storing it in like a variable called timer value. We just threw it in the next line. So then we advance to the cards. So we say play cards, and then here also we'll be using methods of get and post. On get fetch deck is equal to session dot get deck, and index is equal to session dot get current index 0, and if index is less than length of deck, pass card is equal to deck index total into this display it to the user, redirect them to cards recall. Okay, I see what is happening here now. So what we did was, through our form and the post method, through our form we collected deck count and the timing values. Now we posted them, but this post method should be not just be able to print them in our terminal, but should be able to store them somewhere, right? So we should be able to store these in the session. So first up that, so session should have like a deck in that and session time is storing like the timer value, and the current index I also wanted to store that. So it starts with as soon as it starts with 0. So it starts with 0, and what I want there to be happening is that it keeps on updating as the indexes move on, and based on that shuffle thing it just keeps happening. I guess it makes sense somehow, right? So it will redirect us to play cards, but then play cards, when we'll visit all of the cards, these indexes will keep on increasing, and when we'll hit a value, let's say we decided to do 2 decks, so when the value 2 decks would have 104 cards, so when 104 index will happen, or like 103 index will hit, it'll redirect the route to cards recall. So it'll start recalling the same cards. So these are right now stored in the session of this cards URL, right? So then we'll have like a card slash recall. Then we'll have card slash recall. So that is going to have all these values. Then we'll start like the whole recalling process. So, okay. Card generation will work on that too. So this whole process we'll have to do. Then, in order to advance through the cards, that whole logic will go inside play cards. So when you get that, deck is equal to session.getDeck, and index is equal to session.get. Oh yeah, now they're stored in this session, right? So we can just get these values from here. That makes so much sense. So we can just say if request dot method is equal to get, that's when we're supposed to that's when we're supposed to have like a variable deck, which will be equal to session dot get deck, and have like a variable index, that will have session dot get like the current index. Why did it say comma zeros? I don't understand. Like it's default 0, but I won't do that because I don't get that for now. And yeah, then we could define things like session ka current index plus 1, deck size is actually equal to int deck into 52. Oh yeah, well it will also increase by 1. So if index is less than length of deck, so in this too, if the index is less than that of length of that deck size, so whatever is the length of the deck, wait, these are the things I would want to have before the if, right? And if the index right now is less than length of the deck size, this is the deck size. Then the card is equal to that deck of that index. And It says current card number is equal to index plus 1. Like and the total is equal to length of the deck, and then you just render the template. This is actually very simple. You just keep replicating this. So if this is like the else, right? This is the case, and else you have to really understand this. Still don't get this. So yeah, we'll figure this out later. But for now, let's start building the deck. Wait. So when we store in this session, is that a list being stored? So when I say deck, what is it storing? It's actually session deck. Oh, so creating like a random or shuffle do. Return a shuffled list. We have to use that list. So yeah, of course there was a list missing. I was thinking, kahan hai list? But here it is. This part is only giving you counts. So you don't really need to have this here. The session deck will just be equal to deck, and this will help us like shuffle, we'll get it later, and session current index will be equal to 0. Is it redirected to play cards? Okay, and initially here your deck count is just this. Okay, we'll do that later. Yeah, okay. So here is okay. So we'll have to create this list, right? Let's create this helper function first. We'll also import random. Create a Python function. So we'll just create it on the top only. We'll define something called generate deck and the deck count. So we create a list of 52 card strings. Okay, this needs to be done. So we define generate deck. This is the deck count. This is the cards list. We need to create a list of these 52 card strings. We have to do that. That will be done by something else. Give me a list of a deck of 52 cards that can be used in Python code card game. So I want it to look kind of presentable. So it's a flat list of strings, suites and ranks, and the deck is actually this. My order made it like a plain list of 52 cards. Okay, let's say we just did that. This is our deck. This is our little deck, and whatever was this deck count, we multiplied it with it. So there's this new deck. Is equal to deck into deck count. We random dot shuffle the new deck and we return the new deck. So this is that. So here we can go like deck is equal to generate deck count. And then session deck, we store our deck. Right. So store the deck in session. So we have stored the deck count, we calculated the deck count, we've stored the timer, we've stored the deck in that list, stored the current index, and that's all. Then we want to display the card and have the next button. So that's what we actually want to be happening on play cards. So play cards is here. So if you request the method get, okay. So we'll get this working in the part coming after this. So I've learned this actually, I leave things in the middle. वैसे नहीं बोल रही हूँ, I do that. What I mean to say is कि I on purpose sometimes leave things in the middle because then that leaves that tab open in my brain. That's how I'd explain it. then I like to keep thinking about it for the rest of my life. So it just helps me process things better. Therefore, we'll leave it here today, and yeah, we'll pick it up in the next part. So I'll edit the title. Mind training, making a memory game, memory training game, from scratch. What's the spelling of scratch? Okay. Description. This is me learning how to build using Python, HTML, CSS, Jinja 2, Flask and Bootstrap 5. There we go. Why the injustice with HTML, and do a little good for the CSS as well. There we are. We're going to make it public, and we will save this. We'll end the stream here.